Welcome back, fight fans. We're back again. And guess what? It's episode 69. Nice. And it is all about UFC 282. That was on Saturday. And then, of course, we've got this week's card, the final card of the year, UFC Vegas 66. So we will start with UFC 282 and lots to digest there, especially, of course, those last two fights. Yeah, which I'm sure everybody has heard all about at this point. Probably nothing new to add there. I mean, maybe a little bit, but yeah, I don't even know what to say about that yet. We'll get to that when we get to it. But as always, we'll start with the prelims and then just work our way down or up the card, I should say. So, opened up, of course, with one of my favorite prospects of the year, Cameron Simon from South Africa, 21. My God, did he look good? And I knew it. I even said, I mean, of course I said that because that was my prelim pick. But I mean, he looked so good on the contender series. I knew he he's this kid's something special. He really is. He is the real deal. Fight started off pretty slow actually for what I expected, because like we said last time, I mean, Kozlow on the other side, Stephen Kozlow, I mean, he had how many first round finishes? Like I think they were all first round finishes except for maybe one of his wins, and he was undefeated. So like all of his fights finished in the first round pretty much. So I was like, well, clearly that means we're in for quite a ridiculous first round here, but not actually what happened at all. He took it pretty slow, way slower than I expected. Kozlow was the first one to make a move, though. Took Simon down, which was a little surprising because the guy that Cameron was fighting in his contender series fight was also more of a grappler, and he wasn't really able to do that as much. So I was a little surprised that he was able to do that, but Simon proved how good he really is and how well rounded he really is, because we really only saw mostly the kickboxing in the contender series, which is incredible. Of course, he's very, very good on the feet. Didn't really know how he was going to be on the ground, but really proved himself. I was very, very impressed by that. Kozlow was doing well from the top, but Simon was defending really well from the bottom, throwing out some sub attempts. I mean, he was on the bottom, made it work for him. I mean, this is that kind of new generation we're seeing now from the younger guy, or well, younger fighters in general, where they're so well rounded, but their fight IQ is just on another level from where the older fighters obviously would have started at. So, I mean, now they've grown up learning fight IQ this entire time and developing that, where we didn't really have the older fighters just didn't really have that. They didn't have that in there. So, yeah, and you're really seeing that where they're working from the bottom. They're never, they never stop looking to get ahead on the cards too, and also get a finish. I mean, really. But yeah, anyway, eventually Simon managed to reverse him, started to get stuck in a pretty nasty submission with Kozlow on the bottom. I was getting a little bit worried for Simon, but he managed to switch to his back, switch over to Kozlow's back, did slip off. And honestly, it ended up actually being a pretty close round. And I actually thought Simon might have taken it because he kind of, I mean, obviously he was winning on the feet because that's just where he does his thing. But even on the ground, he actually, he started to take control of the situations down there to the point where, like I said, he might have won that first round. Second round, Kozlow started with another takedown, then locking in a guillotine. Again, getting a little bit worried. Simon still managed to get out of it, got back up, especially, by the way, I should say, considering he's only 21. That's what was really starting to worry me, because I'm like, he's a striker that is 21. So normally when you see a striker striker. He's not necessarily a pure striker, but that is definitely where he does his best work. You get kind of worried when they start getting taken down because, usually they don't have that defense yet. When they're 25, 28, okay, they've got their defense down, not too worried about it most of the time. But, you know, 21, I don't know. You don't know if they have it there yet, but he definitely did. He definitely did. Which again is why I'm so impressed by this kid. I say kid, even though he's really actually not. I'm not that much older than him. But anyway, um, what was I going to say? Simon did still manage to get out of it. Dropped Kozlov along the fence for a second with some knees. That's where, of course, his clinch game, the striking came in. The kickboxing, lots of clinching and kickboxing. And then was dragged down again. After some rolling, though, Simon did end up on Kozlov's back again, looking for subs, then rotated again. Lots of rotating really all over the place. Did get some ground and pound in. Kozlov did get back up. And then we had an unfortunate incident there. Simon did land an accidental illegal knee. I mean, yes, it was blatantly illegal, and yes, he did throw it. But I mean, it was pretty clear he was like, "Oh shit, I made a huge mistake. I did not mean to do it like that. I'm so sorry." Because right away he was like, "Oh man," I'm like, he knew right away that was bad. I should not have thrown that. That is not what I meant to do. My bad. And then yeah, it was pretty bad. It was definitely pretty bad. I honestly thought for a second, that this fight was going to be a no contest. I really did, because, it was looking pretty bad. And maybe that's what it should have been. Maybe they should have stopped it because it was so bad. But, he eventually got back up, said he wanted to keep fighting. So you keep going. But I do agree with what happened, though. The ref did end up taking a point away for that. Completely fair. I mean, like I said, it was obviously illegal. And yes, he did not mean to do it. Clearly, he was very apologetic about it. Obviously felt horrible about it, but it was a bad strike. It was illegal and it was bad. It did some damage in there. So, I definitely I do respect the point being taken away. What was I going to after that? And then after that, like I said, the fight IQ. Simon knew because of that, he really needed to make a statement and win the rest of the round. You have to. You have to win that round, or else you have no chance. Because if you did lose that first round, I mean, you have to win this one to even hope for a tie at that point. Just the way the scorecards work, of course. And he did end up getting a cut open on his face, but he was really, really doing well on the feet there. And I will say, scorecards could have been all over the place at this point. And really, actually, what I should have done is I should have checked out what the judges ended up scoring that fight, because I'm genuinely curious at this point what they had it. I had it 19-18 for Simon, because, of course, the point deduction is because it would have been 2018. But seriously, it was at the point where it was like these scorecards could have been all over the place. It was really that close. And again, fight IQ, Simon knew that. The coaches reiterated that, of course, too, which is, again, good coach work as well, which they really do have great coaches in this, in South Africa. I guess I don't know if it's actually at the EFC facility. I'm not really sure where they train, but they really do have good coaching, because he trains with Dricus du Plessis, of course, who we're going to be talking about later. It's pretty impressive, really, that they've got these two guys, but also just a team that's that smart too. Like they're just really good at what they do. I'm, just continuously impressed. I really am. But yeah, so Simon knew he probably needed a finish, or he wasn't, if you're at least unsure, you should probably be going for a finish. And that's exactly what he did in the third round. They told him that. He knew that as well already. He actually did mention that later in an interview as well. But yeah, Kozlov opened up with another takedown. but was getting outmaneuvered again. It really was Simon just, taking control at that point. Simon was on top for most of the round, really using his cardio to overwhelm Kozlov, which again, super impressive for somebody who's 21 to have the cardio base to do that literally for the entire fight. He never slowed down, not even once. And as we know, DDP, Dricus du Plessis, kind of does that as well. That's exactly what he did with Till. But again, we'll get into that later. He kept throwing and throwing really until Kozlov just couldn't defend anymore. Because, he started to land some ground and pound when he did get that takedown. And yeah, like I said, just kept going and going and going until the ref called it off. And yeah, actually, what was crazy, and I personally did not see this, but I was listening, of course, to the commentary, and they said the coach was actually trying to throw in the towel. He was actually literally trying to throw in a white towel into the octagon to say, hey, like, call this fight. Kozlov's coach was like, let's get this done. Like, this is we're done here, which is really interesting because I've never actually heard of that happening in MMA. I mean, I'm sure it's happened and I'm sure it does happen, maybe probably in the regional cards, but I've never heard of that even happening in the UFC. So that crazy. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. That just never happens. But yeah. And yeah, Simon ended up getting that finish in there. So the points don't even matter, which is good in this case, especially with what we saw later. So maybe it's a good thing he didn't go to the scorecards. But yeah, amazing. Seriously, one of the most impressive rookies this entire year. I don't think I could be too much more impressed with Cameron Simon. And then, of course, we're going to talk about Rosas Jr. later. Could not be more impressed by him either. Wow, we're really dragging on already. I mean, we're 13 minutes in and I've only talked about one fight. TJ Brown, Eric Silva, that was another finish. Well, there were 12 finishes in a row. To open the card. So yeah, they were all finishes up until then. Until the Patty fight, of course. So this was a submission. And I even said I wasn't really sure. This was the one Contender Series guy fighting that night where on Saturday where I was like, I'm not really sure how this is going to go. I actually think TJ Brown is going to take this. And we were right in this case. I mean, Silva, he didn't really have the greatest matchup on Contender Series because the guy he was fighting was so small that he literally, all he had to do was just lay on top of him and ground and pound until he won. That doesn't really show us a whole lot. So, and TJ Brown's pretty good. I don't know if you know that, but TJ Brown's pretty good. So I was expecting Brown to come out like this, and he did. He came out like a madman, dropped Silva with a bomb right away. I thought it was almost going to be done right away, actually. Silva got back up, though, actually started to threaten a guillotine. Brown did use that to get to the ground on top, though. After getting manhandled for basically the whole round, I mean, it was about half the round, Silva did manage to get back on top. Got reversed pretty quickly, though. Some solid strikes from both guys to close the round, but I mean, TJ Brown won the round. I mean, clearly, he was in control for pretty much the entire round, and everything else was pretty even, so makes sense. Wild combos from both guys to open the second. Silva did seem to be landing harder, though. But weirdly, he took Brown down after that. He was beating him on the feet, and then he ended up going for the ground, which is where Brown was beating him before. Horrible lapse in fighting IQ there. And that's what I'm talking about. When I talk about Simon being so smart with the fight IQ, then you see somebody like this who's older. He's about, I think he's actually 10 years older than him. And you see huge gap in fight IQ there where just that should never happen. You shouldn't. If you're winning on the feet, why would you even entertain fighting on the ground? But not only did he entertain it, he went for it himself. Terrible, terrible choice there. And, ended up getting reversed by Brown. Brown started to manhandle him again. Never really close to getting a finish or doing a whole lot of damage, though, but, you know, kind of started to steal that round away, too. So it kind of looked like it was going to be 2-0 for Brown at that point. So again, and that was really just fight IQ at that point. Like I said, it matters. It really does. Silva ran in hard, but he was smoked by Brown. And then Brown took top position again. This time, Brown was really pushing for the submission, just really smothered him from the top. Silva had absolutely nothing left in the third round at all. And with a couple minutes left, Brown finally had a submission locked in. This was actually the first time in the fight, I think, that he actually really had a good submission attempt, really. And, Silva did defend it for a bit, then couldn't quite do it, and eventually had to tap, giving Brown the submission win there. So another exciting fight, and really, I would say pretty much every fight on this card was solid. I mean, it really was a good card until Patty ruined it, of course. But and even that was actually a half decent fight. Yeah, I mean, it was just a solid night overall. It really was. Next up, it was Billy Quarantillo, and Alex Hernandez. I even said I specifically said how close this was going to be because I really wasn't sure, but I did think, and I said this. I kind of figure. Actually, I think I said this last time. I can't remember if I did or not. But I mean, this is my logic for my picks on Tapology. I did pick Hernandez, and it was because he's so big. He was big at lightweight. He was coming down to featherweight here. Quarantillo is good, but he's struggled against people that are that good before. Hernandez really only loses to ranked people. So it made sense here. I did go with Hernandez, and he was doing really well early in the fight. Both men were throwing early. Hernandez seemed to have more power, which I think was pretty obvious because he's big at lightweight. So I mean, going down to featherweight, the guy's a tank. Quarantillo then started to grapple, which Hernandez then used to dominate along the fence, out grappling him and getting some good strikes in. Again, he's so much bigger. It's hard to grapple with somebody who's that much bigger than you. Then they went to striking a little bit. Hernandez was kind of just slipping out of the way of everything. Then he ended up getting the takedown. Hernandez then... Oh, wow. I said Hernandez twice in that sentence, but I distinctly remember it was Hernandez doing the damage. Hernandez ended up slicing Quarantillo open with the elbows. Lots of blood there. Clear round for Hernandez, obviously. Like, a lot of damage, lots of control. Obvious round. So, like I said, I was feeling pretty good about the pick at that point. Second round, pretty much everything changed at that point. Quarantillo exploded early. Hernandez did get an easy takedown out of that. He got up, but was then overwhelmed by Hernandez again. So still Hernandez very much in control. And this did continue for a couple of minutes, then leading to his cut getting ripped open again. So really not looking good for Billy Q at this point. Then everything changed. Everything changed right away as Billy Q started to land these combos. Wobbled Hernandez really bad, dropped him down a couple of times, then really smothered him. And then Hernandez, I mean, really trying to hold on, but he was not looking good. He was not looking good at the end there. And then he just kept that going until Hernandez just couldn't defend himself anymore, and the ref called it off for a crazy come from behind win there. Excuse me. So amazing well, I mean, not really the greatest performance from Billy Q, but definitely quite the comeback win, that's for sure. And that was a TKO in the second round for Billy Quarantillo at that point. Fight number 4, that would be Chris Curtis, Joaquin Buckley. Again, I don't remember if I said this, but my pick was Chris Curtis. Just because, I mean, like, I think he actually was the underdog too, which I didn't really quite understand. I mean, like, I don't really get it. I mean, Chris Curtis has been only fighting ranked people pretty much, and he's pretty much beaten all of them. I mean, his only loss was to Hermanson, and that was like, that was just a weird fight to watch, to be honest. I mean, it was just bizarre. So, I mean, I thought he should have been the pretty clear favorite going into this, and he proved himself. He proved really that he should have been the clear favorite going into this. Lots of action on the feet early. Completely dead even, really. But then, Curtis started to land clean shots. I mean, Buckley has a crazy chin because he was hit like literally clean on the chin multiple times, but just completely ate it. Unbelievable, really. But again, he's getting pieced up a little bit. Buckley started to be the more active guy as the round went on, but I mean, like I said, he wasn't really necessarily landing them. And I actually even just saw a video reminding me of that today. Curtis, his striking defense is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. I mean, it doesn't necessarily look that great because he's going, shelling up, but is it effective? It really, really is. So striking defense very much on show there. And if I don't know if the judges saw that, because again, I don't know we don't know what the scores ended up being unless you actually look it up. Of course, you're never gonna know. So yeah, I don't know what the judges ended up scoring that one. Buckley may have gotten it because of the extra activity, but if you were really paying attention to which ones landed, probably would have given it to Curtis because Buckley wasn't really landing most of them. He was just throwing out more, and they were hitting the arms of Curtis most of the time. Second round, though, scorecards went out the window again, of course. Like I said, 12 straight finishes. This was one of them, obviously. Buckley not really allowing Curtis to throw much. And I think that is going to be something that's going to be a problem for Curtis because I think people have started to realize if you throw a lot when Curtis is trying to throw, he waits, defends a lot, and then you start to go down on the cards because you're not being as active. So if you can be the active fighter and just constantly throw things out, he's not the kind of guy that's going to be coming back in at you. And that's exactly actually what reminded me. It reminds me a lot of what Hill did. Angela Hill just did in her last fight, where she with Dakota, because Dakota couldn't throw anything. She's also that kind of fighter where she doesn't she doesn't really throw out much offense when she's being attacked like that. And Angela Hill noticed that and threw out the most output she's ever had in her UFC career to then basically shut Dakota out. Dakota couldn't really get anything in because Hill just kept throwing. And yeah, that's what Buckley was starting to do. But then Chris Curtis lands an absolute bomb out of nowhere, really. I mean, it was looking like, okay, I see what's going to start happening here. But yeah, then he landed a crazy, crazy shot, dropped Buckley on his back and landed some ground and pound until the ref called him off. I wouldn't say it was a come from behind win. I mean, it was definitely close, but yeah, he was probably a little bit down. But yeah, came back, got the finish. Good for Chris Curtis. Great guy. Also very talented. And then once again, I forgot to transfer my notes over. So I will read the next one off of my phone, and that would have been Edmund Shabazian and Dalcha Langiambula, I believe. I think. Should be. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so both of them started pretty cautious early. Shabazian seemed to be leading a bit more, though. Dalcha obviously landing with more power. I don't think there was any question that was going to be happening because he is probably the biggest middleweight I've ever seen. Actually, well, I don't know about that. There's some pretty big middleweights out there, but Dalcha's a pretty big guy. Then Dalcha did switch it up, moving to some grappling, which is pretty smart considering what we know Edmund has been struggling with the past couple years. He's only lost to grapplers. He doesn't have a problem with people on the feet, but Brunson, I think it was Brunson and Vittori, and then somebody else did the same thing. Well, similar to what happened with Holland is that he struggles with the grapple, and Till actually. Now that that's another good point too. Till also struggles with that. So it was kind of like that. But you know what? Edmund really showed that he has been improving his grappling quite a bit because he did shut down quite a few of those takedowns. Dalcha was throwing, not really landing a whole lot, but again, Edmund is a lot quicker because of Dalcha's size, so that wasn't really too surprising either. The first round though might have been Edmund's round. It was very close though, so I'm not really sure how that would have gone. I like I said, maybe for Edmund. Second round, the size of Dalcha seemed to be causing him some problems, causing Dalcha some problems, I should say, because then he started to slow down quite a bit. And, when somebody's a little bit smaller and especially also younger than you too, Edmund started to land a little bit more. Weirdly, Edmund wasn't really throwing out a whole lot. He was kind of just running around the outside and dodging the wild shots of Dalcha. I mean, obviously you don't want to get hit, but you have a speed advantage. The other guy's starting to tire out. Like you can throw a little bit in there. Don't go crazy with it and get knocked out, but you can definitely do a little bit of something in there to not lose the round based on activity. But again, just like Curtis, did not matter. There was with a knife left in the round. Well, clearly I don't know what I meant by that. I think there's a minute left in the round. Autocorrect. Fucking autocorrect. Edmund finally landed something huge, dropped Dalcha from there, and he just let loose from there, dropping down hammers until the ref called him off for a great comeback. What I mean by this time comeback win is not in the fight, because I think he was winning the whole time. I mean in his career, because he has definitely struggled quite a bit in the last few years. And his manager, I think it's Ali, told him, like, listen, if you don't take some time off to really own these skills, you're going to get cut. And you're only like 23 or 24. That's not what you want to have happen in your career. So what you should do, take some time off, develop those skills quite a bit more, come back, take an easier fight, which he kind of, that this would be one of the easier matchups he could get. Get comfortable in there, and then, keep working it. Because again, he's only 24. I mean, Till's 29 and we're still saying, okay, he can still get a little bit better and, improve some things here and there. But this Edmund's 24. I mean, he's got so much time. I mean, like he's got so much room to improve still, so much time. Take it easy, slow roll it a little bit, just a little bit. I'm not saying take all of your matchups like Dalcha where you're probably going to be winning, but, don't go straight into the ranked people is what I'm saying, because he's going to lose if he keeps going for ranked people. Yeah. So anyway, great comeback win for him. Super happy with that. And I hope that he even just has some a confidence boost after that, getting the win. Because that's also a similar thing that we saw with Dominic Reyes now, is it's like, what do you do with this guy? Like now he probably came in too fast after his last loss, got knocked out again. So what do you do with that? Like probably should take at least a year off, develop some things, maybe a mindset thing, also get your head right. I mean, you just got knocked out 3 times in a row. Like, let's not do that again. Similar kind of case. What do you do with somebody like that? Really, there's no real answer to that. It's tough. It's tough. Anyway, moving on. Next one was the heavyweights. And what did I say? I mean, I literally straight up said, this is not going to be close. Rosenstrike is going to absolutely destroy Dawkins, and it is not going to be close. And this is probably the end of Dawkins at heavyweight. And I think that was immediately clear because he won in 23 seconds, did bulldoze straight through him exactly like I said he was going to. There was absolutely no surprise here at all. And like I said, I stand by that. It's not because he's not good. He literally is just too small. He is too small to be at heavyweight. Should not be here because that proved it right there. Because he didn't even catch him from a distance or anything. Rosenstrike didn't catch him from a distance or anything. He literally just walked right in, went into a phone booth with this guy, let loose, and won. That was it. And it's not like Dawkins didn't land anything. He was landing too. Watch the replay. He did land a couple times, but it didn't matter because he's not big enough. That's literally it. Too small. That's it. And what's weird is that Dawkins even said, "Oh, I could consider going down to light heavyweight." Like, I think that should have been the first thought, especially after that one with Lewis. It's like, I think you should now kind of realize you're too small for this division. It's not working out. And definitely after this one. So I don't want to see him ever again at heavyweight. If he's at light heavyweight, I think you're talking about somebody seriously dangerous. Like, I would say top 5 quite easily because of his power and his speed. I don't think you have too many people like that at light heavyweight that are dangerous, like seriously dangerous knockout threats. There's not a whole lot of those guys anymore. Well, Jamal Hill, of course, and a couple other guys like that. There are some, but he's knocking out full on heavyweights with that. So, he did get a few knockouts, I should say, at heavyweight. But yeah. So I mean, you get that in back at light heavyweight, you're looking at it, it's a real deal at that point. I mean, definitely easily top 10, if not, like I said, top 5. So I'm not saying I'm not saying Dawkins is terrible. I just think he's in the wrong weight class. That's all. After that, it was the featured prelim. My God. Raul Rosas Jr., Jay Perrin, my most valuable fighter of the night. I mean, what else could he have done to impress everybody? And I even straight up said, I was like, I do think he's going to get a submission this time because Perrin kind of was taken down fairly easily by other guys, by Bautista. It's just that Mario Bautista couldn't quite get a finish out of it. But I knew as soon as Rosas gets that takedown in this case, he was going to get the finish. So no surprises here again either. But I mean, I don't even think he got hit. I'm pretty sure. I didn't look at the stats for this, but I'm pretty sure Rosas didn't even get hit in this one. And I mean, how much more impressive could he get? Absolutely insane. Cannot wait to see him again, too. I mean, he says he wants to fight this week. I mean, he could have. That would have been insane. He should have, actually. That would have been, way to gain a fan base after that. Main card, that opened with Ilia Topuria, Bryce Mitchell. Again, going into this pretty close, could have really gone either way. Both of them undefeated, which I found out actually why. It said his record's 15-1 when on Tapology and everywhere else, Mitchell is at 14-0. I thought that was weird, and apparently it's because the UFC actually counts tough wins as well, the Ultimate Fighter, and he was on the Ultimate Fighter, and he actually lost on the Ultimate Fighter. That's his only loss, and technically that's an exhibition, so technically it doesn't count, but the UFC does include that in the records that they show just to kind of give the tough people a little bit of a boost. They include that. Of course, in this case, kind of did the opposite, because now it looks like he wasn't undefeated when technically he is. But anyway, I thought, okay, Mitchell's probably going to dominate this on the ground, and that's how this was going to go. I mean, what can you say about? I mean, what can't you say about Ilya Topuria after this? I mean, wow. That's really all I have to say about that. I mean, it was just insane to watch, because, yeah, we knew he was going to have an edge on the feet, but then he ended up not just destroying Bryce on the feet, which was expected, but he also ended up taking Bryce down and getting a submission over him. I mean, yeah, I could not be more impressed with Topuria. I doubted him before. I really did. I wasn't really all that impressed with what I saw the other times, but this time, nothing bad to say. Nothing to say. Nothing bad to say about this guy. I mean, yeah, he's definitely a title shot kind of guy. Like, yeah, he's going to be challenging for a title within the next couple years, I would say. I'd be surprised if he didn't, really. Yeah, seriously impressive there. Yeah. I'm just being thrown off by some things happening in the background. After that, Darren Till and DDP, Dricus du Plessis, again, talked about it a little bit earlier. And you know what? DDP actually referenced this in the press conference, and he said he has a lot of respect for Darren Till, but it's just the size of Till. He's just too small for middleweight. And I mean, I did kind of think about that at one point. I was like, yeah, du Plessis is actually a huge guy for middleweight. Until, he did fight at welterweight. So he actually probably has a point in this case. But you know what? After this matchup, he's got a pretty good point. He's got a really good point, because he had no chance of getting up, really. As soon as DDP was on top of him, that was it. And we even saw that in the first round. I mean, at one point in the first round, not even a joke, it was 60-0 in strikes in the first round. I mean, yeah, it was just a wild scenario that du Plessis had Till, of course, against the fence, and apparently Till's arm was caught, so he literally couldn't move his arm or anything like that. So he was literally just straight up getting punched in the face for a couple minutes straight. But Till being Till, of course, he was yelling at the ref, "Don't stop this fight. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. Don't stop it." So good for him. And by the way, if I was the ref, I wouldn't have stopped it either, because it wasn't really looking like, okay, this is going to be a finish. It was more so like, oh, I hope the ref doesn't call it off here. That's what I was thinking this whole time, because nothing that du Plessis was landing was like, whoa, and Till was never like wobbling and falling all over the place. He was just getting, it's just little rabbit punches, like just like that, basically, over and over again. It's not doing crazy amounts of damage. It's just like annoying. And it is also doing damage, of course, because I mean, Till's face was after that was a little rough. But he's not going to get knocked out from it, is what I'm saying. But within 30 seconds left in the first round, Till turned the tables, reversed Dricus, and then ended up lighting him up with the ground and pound. And then crazy wild round there. Almost, I mean, if it weren't for those last 30 seconds, I think you'd have to score that a 10-8. It had to be a 10-8 for du Plessis there. But because of that late flurry, probably a 10-9 at that point, just because of that late flurry there. Second round, Till walked forward at the start of the round, landing some clean, crisp combos. And Dricus really looked like he was struggling with the cardio at that point. And it made sense. Obviously, he tired himself out from punching Darren Till in the first round for 3 minutes straight. So, makes a lot of sense. And really, I even wrote down here, actually, Till was starting to make him look silly on the feet. He really was. He was dodging everything, and then just like the his famous, back elbows, just the elbows landed while he was dodging everything and landing these crazy combos. I mean, that is the Till that we all love, that we want to see all the time. I mean, he's so good on the feet. It's just the grappling that's the problem, of course. But yeah, so it was really looking like Till was gonna just come back into it, basically. He made himself come back into the fight, and he was winning at that point. He did seem to let Dricus recover a little bit at the end of the second round, and then was taken down, and did get stuck. And that's where, like I said, I do agree with what DDP was saying. Till is just a little bit too small for the division, I would say. Yeah, thanks to all that, I mean, like I said, I think the fight was pretty clearly tied at that point, unless, of course, you did score it a 10-8 in the first round, which wouldn't be heinous. Like I said, it wouldn't be insane to call it a 10-8 in the first round, but, I would say Till kind of redeemed himself and got it back up to a 10-9 with that. So I thought it was tied going into the final round there. Final round was dead even. Du Plessis was leading the output, so seemed like what he did was kind of just take the second round off a little bit, then come back in the third, using that cardio that he was kind of saving a little bit, I guess. And then after a couple of minutes, Du Plessis grabbed another takedown, landed some good ground and pound, then switched over to a submission, and then Till tapped. Yeah. And like I said, I don't know. I wouldn't even necessarily say that middleweight is just the wrong division. I just think for honestly, I think he just needs to be bigger. Like there's nothing stopping him from working out a lot and getting a lot more muscle on and then just cutting more weight. He just needs to get bigger. I mean, honestly, he didn't even look bad. I think a lot of people are kind of throwing him down like, oh, now he lost to somebody who was barely, I mean, was he even in the top 10? He was like number 14 or something like that. Oh, he's losing to these guys. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you got to give Du Plessis some credit too. I mean, he looked incredible. So, what are we doing here? You can't shit on Till too much. Also, like I said, it's just, he couldn't stop the takedowns. And I don't think it's even, I mean, well, which is also a little bit weird considering he's trained with Khamzat for how much? Like he trained with Chimaev for months, and you didn't get any. Like I don't know, did he not get any better at takedowns? It's honestly just a little confusing at that point. Like what was he doing at that point? You'd think he would have been a little bit better at shutting down a takedown. Like he could have at least stopped a couple of the takedowns. But I even wrote down here, I don't even think he stopped a single one. I honestly don't. I think he was actually taken down every single time by Du Plessis, and he's not even really a grappler. I mean, clearly Du Plessis is more well-rounded than we give him credit, because I think we all kind of figured he was a stand-up kind of guy. But obviously he showed he's definitely a grappler as well. But again, that's not his main thing. So you shouldn't be getting taken down every single takedown. Like at least I thought he would have been able to shut it down a few times. I don't know. So yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I've heard other people say the same thing. I don't really know what you do with Till either. I mean, obviously you don't get rid of him, and that would be stupid, but he's 29. He obviously still has pretty good opportunities to make a huge a huge statement in this division. It's just I don't know, like I think if he gains a lot more muscle, he'd probably do a lot better. I don't know. I think that's maybe the way he's got to go with it. And again, work on the grappling defense. I don't know, but like I said, he looked incredible in the second round, and he came back in the first round too. So I don't really know what to say. I don't know. It's a weird situation. I guess, at least the next fight, you definitely have to give him some kind of striker, or else you're basically just dooming him for another loss, and I don't think that's really fair to him. So I would say you got to give him some kind of striker first. I don't know. It's yeah, terrible situation because I'm a fan of Till now too. So I don't know. It's rough to see. It really is. Um, yeah. Now I'm lost. Where am I? Oh yeah, fight number 10, Ponzinibbio, Morono. This one I knew it was going to be the most boring one of the night. It was. I mean, it wasn't like horrible. It wasn't a terrible fight to watch, but it was like, let's get something going here. I mean, especially after we saw how many amazing fights in a row. And then we saw, the best fight of the night, the brawl of the night was Duplessis and Till. So, then you follow it up with what we already knew was going to be the least interesting fight of the night. But anyway, I mean, it was still a good fight. It was still a good fight. I can't shit on it too much because it was still a good fight. Anyway, it did start slow though. Neither guy really doing a whole lot of anything for the first few minutes, so there was a lot of booing, of course. Morono seemed to be landing a tad bit more. The end of the round sealed it for Morono for me. Dropped Ponzinibbio on his back, did land some good shots. Obviously, not enough time left to get a finish, but did look very good in the first round there at the end. So first round, pretty clear for Morono. Second round, which by the way was a little bit surprising. But anyway, second round, little bit slow to start the second round too. Like I said, this was by far the least interesting of the night. Morono slightly more active. Ponzinibbio started to get a little bit of action going on as the round went on. Dead even, to be honest, the second round. No idea how to score it. I mean, I kind of had Morono because he was slightly more active. So I kind of had him up 2 rounds at this point, which again, I was actually pretty surprised. I really was. Then the third round started off slow, but Morono started to land hard, backed Ponzinibbio up, wobbled him pretty bad, and then reminiscent of, well, a couple of fights on Saturday, the guy who was down on the cards comes back and gets a finish. That's exactly what happened. Ponzinibbio was down, landed a crisp combo, and put Morono flat on his back. A couple more shots. That was it. So another come from behind win. I think that's like 3 or 4, maybe 4 or 5 on the night, actually. Yeah. I mean, wow. So we ended up getting the right pick, but definitely not the way I thought it was going to happen. But yeah, I'm surprised. I really was, because Ponzinibbio has been so good and so technical against these really top tier contenders, and Morono hasn't really been all that convincing, to be honest. But I mean, what else can you say? I mean, it seemed like he was up 2 rounds. And he also, not only that, Ponzinibbio was supposed to be fighting somebody else. He was supposed to be fighting Robbie Lawler. And then, Morono comes in less than 2 weeks notice fighting a ranked guy like this, and he was winning. I mean, it was, what else can you say about Morono? I mean, I was genuinely impressed with Morono. It just obviously didn't work out because of that last round, which is too bad for Morono after that. But Dana White thought the exact same thing I did, and he looked really good for that, and he ended up getting a win bonus out of it, actually. So they ended up both getting the money. I mean, Ponzinibbio got the finish, so he got a bonus because all the people who got a finish ended up getting a bonus, and then Morono got his win bonus as well. So yeah. It's going to be a Dana White Christmas. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed. I really was. Not impressed with Ponzinibbio though, which, I mean, wasn't hugely impressed before, but like I said, I figured he would be able to win this one. Anyway, co-main. Fuck. This is where all the controversy started. Patty opened up hard with some crisp combos. Gordon wasn't letting it get to him though. Countered him pretty hard a couple of times. Both guys doing really well on the feet. Patty was landing a bit harder, but Gordon was just landing a lot more. Patty almost got a takedown, but was reversed by Gordon. So, I mean, pretty clear first round for Gordon. And I haven't rewatched it. So, like I said, when I do these notes, these are literally, I'm writing these notes as I'm watching the fights. So, I'm not looking back on the fights and, retroactively writing my notes. Like, I'm writing these notes as I'm watching the fights. So, I will say I haven't watched it back, but everybody who has still thinks this is a crazy robbery. And I can't disagree with that. But I will watch it again. I should have watched it. Well, actually, that's right. I wasn't even home the last few days, so I couldn't watch it. And then Shaw screwed me out of watching the pay-per-view again because of their awful system. But anyway, I'll watch it again tonight or tomorrow or something, and maybe I'll tweet about it just to see, like what are we talking about here? Like, is it really a huge robbery? I think it is. I mean, I think it pretty clearly is, but I need to watch it again because it's just so insane that three of the judges, like, we'll talk about Douglas Crosby after this because I do think it needs to be said again. And I mean, I know everybody's been talking about him, but I might as well also add in my piece as well because I did watch what Ariel Helwani was saying too, because I actually, after that whole Patty incident last week with him, I've been watching his show, I will admit. And I will be watching every episode from now on because he is clearly the best journalist in MMA. Very, very good. Yeah, very good show. Also Canadian, which is cool. But yeah, and I did hear what he said about Douglas Crosby, and that is very concerning. But anyway, back to the fight. So first round, I yeah, I thought it was Gordon too in the first round. I thought that was pretty clear. Second round, Gordon was the one pressuring forward this round. Patty landed a couple of counters, but was getting backed up into the fence, weirdly. I'm back into the fence, and weirdly, that's where the weird part came in. Gordon then started to shoot for takedowns. Weird strategy. I don't know why he did that because he was clearly winning on the feet. So that was stupid. That was just a lapse in fight IQ there. That was awful. Then when he separated, Patty was the one starting to land a little bit harder. Gordon then came back, started to push Patty into the fence again. Patty landed some huge combos, getting some momentum back, but Gordon seemed to grab it again. So I had Gordon up 2 rounds at this point too. Yeah. I I will say, I guess even just reading my notes back, it did seem a little bit closer than I think people are making it out to be. But I mean, it still did seem like pretty clearly that Gordon won the first 2 rounds. I don't know. Third round, Gordon opened with some heavy grappling right away. Had wow, now I fucked up the name again. Patty pinned into the fence for almost the entire round. Never really did any damage though. With the late work from Patty, he might have taken it. But I did actually score it 30-27 for Gordon. I did. I had it 30-27. But yeah, there that I could have seen an argument for sure for Patty winning the last round. So when I heard 29-28, I was like, okay, that's fair. But I mean, then I heard the name and I was like, huh? The fuck? um yeah. Uh yeah. I don't know. It's just crazy. It really is that happened. I don't even know what to say. Like I said, I'll watch it again. Maybe we're all just judging a little bit too hard, and maybe it was actually close enough where it could have gone either way. Because if it was that close, maybe you give the benefit of the doubt where it's like, okay, it was close and I could see how Paddy could win. So maybe it kind of makes sense. But I gotta say, like I said, I did have it 30-27. So I don't know. And like I said, and Ariel said this too. eh, For one judge, for one judge to have it 29-28 for Paddy, I would have been like, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that scorecard, but split decision, okay. But for all three of them to have it 29-28, that is the concerning part. That's the concerning part. Especially, yeah, like again, and I'll talk about Douglas Crosby now, where it's like the day before he gave in what is quite possibly, and I do mean this, the worst judges card in MMA history that we know of. I mean, seriously, 50-45 for the losing fighter. That, and I've even said that before, where I was like, and I've with a 30-27, and I said that back then when I saw that happen, where it was like, where we saw a 29-28 for the winner, and then a 30-27 for the loser. I even said back then that should be impossible. That should literally be impossible. Like that with how is that even possible? Like genuinely, that should not even be possible to happen. So for that to happen in a 5-round fight where everybody seems to agree that it was 48-47, or 48-47 for Stotts, I believe. And then one of the judges goes 50-45 for the loser. Huh? Like it's just insane. Like that, it just doesn't even, like, there's no justifying that at all. Like I mean, like I said, for it to happen with a 30-27 in the wrong direction, I don't even know how you would arrive at that. But 50-45 for the loser, that is legitimately impossible. Like that is full blown, like that needs to be investigated immediately, and that person should probably never judge a professional MMA fight ever again, because that seriously should never happen ever. And then what Ariel pointed out, and I never even thought of this, was that he then went on a flight after this across the country to Vegas to then judge a pay-per-view in the co-main event of the biggest pay-per-view, of the biggest promotion on the planet, in a pay-per-view in the co-main event. And he's judging there after a flight, and he's like, what, 60, 70 years old or something, like, and he was just on a flight, like, after that card too. It's like that where there's no framework set up to prevent any craziness like this happening. So it's like there are so many things wrong with what just happened, beyond the fact that somehow three people scored it 29-28 in the other direction, when it seemed like pretty much everybody on the entire internet collectively agreed, yeah, this was a 29-28 or a 30-27 even for Jared Gordon. Like, that should not happen. That should literally be impossible to happen. And in any other sport, I think it kind of is impossible for that to happen, just the way the other sports are set up. So I mean, clearly something needs to be happen. And I did like the suggestions that were made on Ariel's show by, I just started watching the show, so honestly I don't know the other two guys' names, but the other two guys that were talking, I really do actually think that those suggestions are where we should be going with this, which is, yes, we do need better training for the refs, but it's also not even about, I mean, not the refs, the judges. it's also about the system in general, like the scoring system in general, where if we had better scoring systems, stuff like this wouldn't happen because it would be just blatantly wrong to score it a certain way. And also, when you score a fight wrong like this, or like the 50-45, there should be some kind of consequence, and there literally isn't one. There is nothing. There is nothing in place. So it's kind of like we need to switch something up here. But anyway, I won't go into all of that. I suggest watch that part of Ariel, the MMA hour. Watch that part of it because yeah, they raised some pretty good points there that I think every MMA fan should kind of watch and be like, that it's a pretty good point. We should really get just better systems in place, honestly. All across the board, like the commissions, the rules, also, the scoring rules, um, and yeah, the way that they're treating the judges, as in like that should never happen, where a guy is judging fights 2 days in a row across the country, less than 24 hours. That should never happen. There's just so many things, and I will leave it up to them to talk about. I suggest you watch it though, because it was a very interesting listen. But yeah, after that, then we had another somewhat bizarre result. I wouldn't say it was a robbery though, by any means. It was close. Just weird timing more than anything. But yeah, light heavyweight. Oh, cool. What am I even talking about? Jan Blachowicz, Magomed Ankalaev. It will go through round by round to see where this kind of fell apart. Well, it didn't. I don't know if it even fell apart, but still, I was a little confused by the end. I will say. Ankalaev, the first round, Ankalaev throwing out a bit more, but slow overall. Jan had the first big moment of the fight where a leg kick did wobble Ankalaev. Ankalaev then started to grapple a little bit. I don't know why he waited until it was like the fourth or the fifth round where he started to actually grapple. I thought that was stupid, honestly. I mean, you're a better wrestler than this guy. Why are you not doing that the entire fight? I mean, I was blown away by the lack of strategy on this one. It made no sense at all. At all. It made absolutely no sense that he was doing this. So anyway, it was dead even, I would say, but I actually gave Jan the first round. I think those leg kicks and the activity did it for me. Because Ankalaev didn't really get any damage in, so you kind of have to go with Jan at that point. So I had it 1-0 there. Jan slammed the leg right away in the second round, forcing Ankalaev to switch, and this really continued the entire round. I mean, it was slow, but Jan took out the other leg at that point, destroying both legs of Ankalaev. And really, I really did think, okay, well, this is going to be ending probably in, if not this round, the next round, because he can barely walk. Like, what, this is crazy. Um, and then, of course, immediately Ankalaev responded with some grappling. Couldn't get anything going. He did get a takedown with 10 seconds left. I did actually even say may have stolen it because the round was super close. But like I said, that leg damage was rough. So for me, I had it 2-0. But I mean, these rounds were all really close. Not wanting to deal with those kicks, obviously. The third round, Ankalaev did push the grappling right away, pinned Jan into the fence. He held him there for a couple of minutes, then managed to grab a massive takedown. From there, he was blanketing Jan, then moved to his back with a couple of minutes left in the round. He was never close to a finish, but clearly won the round. And I must have missed a round in my notes there, because at this point I actually said it was probably tied. I thought so. I thought it was kind of tied going into the last round. 10 to, oh, actually, that doesn't even make any. Yeah, 1-1, 1-1. Yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, 2-2. So Jan won the first two, Ankalaev won the next two. That's how I had it personally. But fuck, I mean, the third round it was so dead even, and I mean, there wasn't really a whole lot going on, so kind of hard to score rounds like that. But yeah, like I said, I kind of had it tied at that point. Then after a weird exchange, Ankalaev found himself on top once again, negating any kind of offense from Jan. Ankalaev threw out the occasional ground and pound, but was really just holding him down, not giving him any room. Clear final round for Ankalaev. So that was pretty obvious. Oh, that was no, okay. So that was the third round and fourth round. Oh, okay, because then the fifth round, I mean, that was yeah. No, actually, no, I did write that down right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I had it 3-2, 3-2 for Ankalaev. That's what I had. Because yeah, I don't know. And I didn't really think it was a 10-8 personally in the final round. I was not convinced it was a 10-8 because I mean, we've seen 10-8s before. And I mean, if you score that a 10-8, you have to give a 10-8 to Duplessis against Till because Duplessis was all over him for like 4.5 minutes out of the 5 minutes. So it was kind of like if you give, you know, if you give a 10-8 to Ankalaev for the last round, you pretty much have to give Duplessis the 10-8 as well, which I don't think happened. So I wasn't really convinced that was a 10-8. But I mean, either way, no matter how you scored the last round, I still had Ankalaev. So I said probably 3-2 for Ankalaev. Judges scored at 48-47 Jan, which was surprising, I guess. Oh, actually, no, I guess that's not crazy because, like I said, then, if the way that would work out, the numbers weren't crazy, I should say, but the rounds that they gave them when you looked closer, because if you look up the scorecards, the rounds that were given were a little bit like, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, that's where it got a little bit iffy. But yeah, I don't know. I thought Ankalaev won. But yeah, and then Ankalaev, it was oh yeah, okay. So it was I'm stumbling here. It was 48-47 Jan, which iffy, but okay. Jan, oh yeah, and then it was 48-46 for Ankalaev. Okay. Because that would be the same as my scorecard, except for you would give him the 10-8. So okay. Um, I thought that one was pretty fair. 47-47. Okay. I think that I think that's also kind of fair because again, but that did include the 10-8 again though. So that really, and they even said that that's where the confusion kind of came in because if you looked at the scorecards, if you don't score that last round a 10-8, if that one judge didn't score it a 10-8, two of them would have had a 48-47 for Jan, meaning that Jan won the fight by split decision. So I don't know. And I don't know. I just don't see it that way. I don't really know how you could say Jan won the fight. I don't know. And that's where the confusion comes in because it's like, I think Ankalaev was a fairly clear winner if it wasn't a tie. Because I could have seen a tie. I didn't question that much. But yeah, I don't know. It was just which is why they kept talking about the scorecards because I think a lot of people agree that Ankalaev won the fight, but when you look at the scorecards, if you actually go round by round, it kind of makes sense. So what are we doing with these scorecards then if the result doesn't make sense, but it adds up on the cards? Because I'm having a hard time saying actually that Ankalaev convincingly won on the scorecards. But when you watch the fight, I think it was pretty obvious that he won the fight. So again, there's a disconnect between the scorecards and what we saw. Like, obviously not as crazy as ludicrous as that the co-main, but still it raises some questions as to like, well, why did we think he won the fight when on the scorecards it kind of does add up that it was a tie, or even that maybe Jan did win 3 of those rounds. I don't know. You kind of just have to start asking yourself, why is this being scored like this when it just doesn't make sense? I don't know. And I know probably what I said doesn't even make a lot of sense right now, but that's exactly why. It's like the whole system kind of doesn't make sense anymore. And I think these 2 fights in a row just showed that. And I think even Jan actually said it best in the interview after. He's like, "Well, I don't think I won, but I'm not convinced either that, it could have been a tie. Like, I'm not convinced either that I lost. So I don't think I won, but I'm not sure that I lost." So it's like, how does that happen? you know? Like, I just don't know. Like, what do you do with that? I don't know. And then, of course, it's a disaster in this case specifically because you have a draw on a title fight for a vacant title. So now you still don't have a champion. It's just an all-out disaster, really. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really doing justice to how crazy these last 2 fights were, but the 2 results were. And like I said, and I mean, I even talked to somebody on Twitter about it after, and I agree with what the person told me. They were like, "Well, the result isn't crazy," which it's not. I don't think it. I think it was close enough that you could have gone either way scoring that one, but why? When we all seem to kind of agree that Ankalaev was the clear winner of the fight. Why, why do the scorecards not show that necessarily? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know what else to say. It's just a huge gaping flaw in the system. Really, I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Yeah. So we'll move on. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Bonuses for the night. Rosenstrike, I had to give him the KO bonus. I mean, 23-second knockout. Was it completely, fully, 100% expected exactly to end like that? Yes. But for him to actually do it in 23 seconds, what more could you do for a knockout bonus? Like, literally, that's pretty much the definition of a knockout bonus is a 23-second KO. So I had to give it to him. Sub of the night, I thought that was pretty clear, actually. Ilia Topuria, because I could not believe that he submitted Bryce Mitchell, who we all kind of thought, okay, well, Topuria has a pretty good chance of winning this fight. But I don't think anybody thought it was going to be on the ground. I know I never, like, that never even would have crossed my mind because I think that would have been absurd to suggest before going into this fight. It just seemed like Topuria, yeah, probably does have an edge on the feet, and he could get a knockout, could easily dominate this fight on the feet. I don't doubt that, which is what I said last time. I was like, he's got a pretty good chance on the feet. But I think we all kind of figured, okay, when this fight hits the canvas, though, it's Mitchell's world there. So I could not be more impressed by Topuria. Submission of the night for me. Insane. Absolutely insane that he did that. Brawl of the night, again, I don't think there was any question there, actually, because I think everybody, again, collectively agreed. Darren Till, Dricus du Plessis. Pretty obvious fight of the night. And then most valuable fighter, could have gone a lot of ways with this, really, because there were a lot of amazing performances, including, like I said, Topuria. I mean, that was a close second for me, but Raul Rosas Jr., I mean, seriously, Like, the kid's 18, and he just walked in there and just manhandled a full-grown man UFC fighter that's already fought a couple times in the UFC. And yeah, sure, he lost a couple of them. I think he lost all of his UFC fights, but he's still good. Like, he was getting to decisions with guys that are, he went to a decision with Mario Bautista. Like, Mario Bautista just smoked who was that a couple weeks ago? But he absolutely obliterated a UFC veteran, and it wasn't even fucking close. So I mean, Mario Bautista is pretty solid, and he made it to a decision with this guy. And Raul Rosas Jr. goes in there, blitzes him right away, submits him, and like I said, I don't even think he got hit. So I mean, what more does the kid have to do? Again, he's 18 and he did that. Obviously, he's the most valuable fighter. I mean, people are saying, "Oh, Ilya Topuria is the MVP of the night." I actually heard that again on the Ariel's show. Ilya Topuria is the most valuable, the MVP, but or in this case, the MVF. But I don't know. I mean, an 18-year-old who just turned 18 managed to do that. That's the craziest. I mean, how much more impressive could you get? How much more valuable could you get? There's no ceiling on this kid at all. So, like, he is the most valuable fighter, hands down. That was an easy choice for me. I don't know. Because it's just so insane. That never happens. Like, regardless of sport, that stuff like that does not really happen ever. So, I mean, that's crazy. That would be like, I mean, like, seriously, I like compare that to another sport. Like, I don't know. I mean, even in hockey, I mean, we did see that. I think with Austin Matthews did it, but like that would be like a 17, probably like a 17-year-old, 16-year-old even, because it's that young. Seriously, because you never see 18-year-old fighters anywhere near a pro league. So to factor that in, because you see 18-year-old hockey players, you don't see like 17 or 16. So that would be like a 16 or 17-year-old going into the NHL and scoring a hat trick in his first game. That's literally what Rosas just did. That's crazy. Like, that's absolutely fucking insane that he just did that. So I think he's outright, not even without a shadow of a doubt, the most valuable fighter of the night. Anyway, that's just my opinion though. But anyway, we'll take a short break and we will finally get started talking about this week's card. Again, my bad for rambling so much, but I mean, seriously, what a wild, wild weekend that was. And not just in terms of the drama and all that, but honestly, just the fights in general. They were pretty crazy fights, a lot of crazy results. And then, of course, lots of controversy as well. But anyway, we will be back right after this. I just need to find it. There we go. Be back right after this.
Allow me to introduce Pie Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a fucking hockey stick. Showcase your power.
Back. I won't take too much time on this card. I think actually, to be honest, a lot of these results kind of, my picks kind of speak for themselves because I don't really think a lot of these are all that close this week. But also, yeah, I think my food just arrived, so I will keep this to a minimum. That being said, we will still, still probably at least 20 minutes, half an hour. Anyway, the main card. Oh yeah, UFC Vegas 66, Cannonier, Strickland. Let's open with the main card, of course. Well, that's what we do every single time. So far, this is opening up with Cody Brundage, Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. This is actually one of the ones where I'm not entirely sure the way it's going to play out. I disagree with the odds on this one. I don't think it should be wildly in favor of who I actually am going to go with on my pick. Because it is very close. I mean, Oleksiejczuk has been struggling against top contenders. He did just lose to Dustin Jacoby. Brundage has also been doing that. He has also lost to top guys, but he's got 2 first-round finishes in his last 2 fights, and both of them were this year. That was Gore and I think it was actually Lungiambula. And Oleksiejczuk just destroyed Sam Alvey, which, I mean, no surprise there whatsoever. So really, I mean, they're kind of the same. They're kind of at a similar level. They really are. But the difference for me, it just slightly goes in the direction of Oleksiejczuk, because he's really only lost to actual ranked people, whereas Brundage, he has struggled a little bit more. I mean, I can't stress enough, this is very close. I really do think this is a lot closer than it looks. So I'm concerned actually with what those odds are saying. I don't like that. I don't like what the odds are saying, and I'll get into that in a couple seconds here. But yeah, Oleksiejczuk has also fought the tougher guys. So I'm going in that direction, Oleksiejczuk, but it really is close because Brundage has also been getting a lot better too. So you got to factor that in as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm going Oleksiejczuk by finish. I do think there's going to be a finish no matter what happens. I really do, because I think if Brundage wins, he's probably going to get a finish. Oleksiejczuk also probably, could easily get a finish as well. So I'm seeing a finish in either direction here, which is why I'm going to get into it. But the odds are at over under 1.5, and that would probably be why, I would say. Because I do think a finish for either side makes a lot of sense, probably in the first or the second round. That's what I'm thinking here. But yeah, the odds. Brundage is at plus 220 right now, and Oleksiejczuk is at minus 275. I'll get my banner up here for Bet99. I just don't think that's really fair. I mean, if you're going by the numbers, I would actually say Brundage is the clear. That's where the money is for sure, because you're not like Oleksiejczuk at minus 275. I think that's a little bit insane, really, because he hasn't necessarily done anything that's shown us he's like insanely good. I don't think, anyway. So I disagree with the odds. I'm not putting him in a parlay, but I would still be leaning towards Oleksiejczuk for sure. Again, there's more value on Brundage. So if you're going based on value, that would be the way to go. But if you're going on who's most likely to win, I would say Oleksiejczuk is the right choice there. The over-under, like I said, is at over-under 1.5. It's over. The over is at plus 100. The under is at minus 129. The only reason I pause there is because I'm genuinely not sure which way I would go with it. You know what? I would have to imagine there's a lot more value on the over 1.5 in this case at plus 100, because there's a pretty good chance that this is going to go into the second round at least. Like I said, it is pretty likely that there is going to be a finish, but I don't know. I wouldn't be confident enough to put it on a minus 129 for under 1.5 on these two. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going with the over. I'm going with the over 1.5 at plus 100. There's just so much value there. Yeah. And I would change my mind. I would change my mind if it was at like minus 150, minus 180 or something in favor of the over. I would probably go in the under direction in that case. But there's just no value really in minus 129 for under 1.5. Yeah, I just don't see as much value there. I don't know. That's a weird one. So, but yeah, I'm going with the over on that one just because of the value. The next fight, though, absolute barn burner. I cannot wait to watch this one. This is my maybe my second favorite one of the night. Drew Dober, Bobby Green. Oh, I'm so excited for this one. It is going to be great. I do think there's a pretty clear favorite here, though, and that has to be Dober. I mean, you're not going to beat Dober on the feet. It's literally like punching a fire hydrant. I mean, seriously, he's never been knocked out. Actually, I don't know if he has been knocked out or not. Not recently, anyway, which is saying a lot considering how hard he was. I mean, listen, if Terrence McKinney didn't get a knockout against Drew Dober, you're not getting a knockout against Drew Dober. And definitely Bobby Green is not getting a knockout over Drew Dober. And then really you have to consider, well, if Bobby Green isn't going to get a knockout, how is he going to win this fight? Because Dober has the cardio to go all 3 rounds and to beat him in all 3 rounds. Plus, he's also got the grappling. He's also very good at wrestling. So it just seems like every single factor in this case goes to Drew Dober. It's at -1. He's at minus 155 right now, Drew Dober. I think that's an incredible price. I'm going all in on Dober minus 155. I think that's fantastic. Green plus 125. Nah. Yeah. And the over under is at 2.5. And the over is at minus 160. I think that's pretty fair. I mean, Dober could very easily get a knockout here. He really could. But Green really only gets submitted. That's really the only way that he gets finished. So I don't think that Dober is going to get a finish. Is it plausible? Yes. But I would say the much safer bet is the over 2.5 minus 160. Yeah, I think that's a pretty clear one all around. So yeah, Drew Dober for sure. Over 2.5 minus 160. Doing that too. Next up, Caceres and Erosa. I would say this is another fairly close one. I really do. But on paper, it definitely doesn't look close because, I mean, Caceres has a record of 19-13. That's a horrendous record for somebody in the UFC. But when you actually look at it, it makes a lot more sense. So it really is a close fight. But hasn't been doing well against more elite guys, whereas Erosa has been he's on actually still on a winning streak. Which includes Charles Jourdain and Hakeem Dawodu. So to me, I mean, those are 2 pretty elite guys, Jourdain and Dawodu. So I'd have to imagine that Erosa is going to be able to edge ahead in a decision here. I don't think either one of these guys is going to get a finish. So I just think Erosa has a lot more going for him and that he'll get the decision because of that. It is close, though. It is close. The odds, plus 142 for Caceres, minus 175 for Erosa. Again, going with Erosa. Not putting him in a parlay, though. I mean, that's just not a fight that, is convincing enough in either direction that I'd be putting that in a heavy, in a heavy parlay like that. And again, definitely going for the over on this one. Over under 2.5, minus 167 for over 2.5, which I think is actually a pretty decent price for this. So I'm definitely jumping on the over 2.5 at -167 and -175 for Rosa. Still very much worth it. I think he is definitely just a better all around fighter. There's no other way to say that. The next one, I mean, talk about a mismatch. I don't even know why this fight is being made. I have zero idea why this fight has even been made. You've got Albazi on the one side, who has been finishing pretty much every single person in the first round. He's literally like, he could easily finish somebody in the top 10 right now. That's how good he is. He is insanely good, insanely good. And he's going against somebody making their debut. Not only is it his debut, but he won a split decision on the Contender Series. And not only that, he didn't get a fight right away in the UFC. He did a fight outside of the UFC first, and now he's in here. Like, what are we doing here? I genuinely, I don't understand. Like, he won a split decision on the Contender Series, and you think this guy's gonna beat Albazi, who submitted Malcolm Gordon and Francisco Figueiredo in the first round, and somebody else too. I think it was 3 first round submissions. I mean, what? That's like, well, why? Like, it's just so crazy. And the craziest part is that it's only at -450 right now. I mean, with that kind of background, I would be throwing him up there at -7, -800, because seriously, Costa has no chance here. Absolutely no chance. Like, this is not even close. It's just so absurd that it's even happening. I genuinely don't even understand why this fight's being made. Yeah, it's just crazy. Not only that, actually, he was struggling with the grappling on the Contender Series. Like, that's how that other guy almost won. And you expect him to stand up to Amir Albazi, who, like I said, could manhandle somebody in the top 10 with his ground game? Like, what are we doing here? I just don't understand. So -450, clear parlay opportunity. Put everything. I mean, seriously, you could put 1,000, 10,000. I mean, on Albazi. Seriously, you're gonna win. Like, it's just so crazy. It's so wild of a mismatch. I don't even understand why it's being made. I really don't. And the fact that this is at -450, what? Like, this is way more one-sided than that. So yeah, putting a lot of money on Albazi, definitely in all the parlays. The over-under, I mean, he's gotten 3 first-round submissions over people that have been in the UFC for a lot longer. So I'm going under 1.5. It is at 1.5 right now, but the under is actually the plus money one right now, plus 130 for under 1.5. Why not? Like I said, he's got 3 first round submissions. Why would he not be able to do another one? Why not? Put some money on that. Could I see him getting to the second round? Maybe. But like I said, he's submitted way better people than this guy. So in the first round. So no brainer. Put money on the first round. I don't even know why this is. I truly don't understand why the odds are this close. It doesn't make any sense. By the way, I did actually rewatch the fight just to make sure I wasn't going insane, because it's just so crazy of a matchup. Like, why is this being made at all? Anyway, enough about that one. Co-main, Arman Tsarukyan, Damir Ismagulov. This, to me, is what I'm the most interested in as a true MMA fan, because these two are so insanely good that there is no way that this ends up being a boring fight. This has to be a good fight. Like, it's going to be amazing. I think Dober and Green is probably fight of the night because it's more entertaining. You know, you got this crazy striking on both sides. I could see that being fight of the night. But this one is very interesting because of the two actually meeting up here. That being said, I do think there is a pretty clear favorite, and that's Tsarukyan. He's just insanely good on the ground. And I mean, if you don't understand how good this guy is on the ground, because maybe you were thrown off by the Gamrot loss, which, by the way, Tsarukyan was winning that fight for the first three. I thought he actually won the decision. I really did. Because he clearly won the first two rounds. And really what happened was Gamrot then pulled ahead on some of the cards. I think might have even been a split. I'm not quite sure. But he came back and won the last 3 rounds on the cards. That's how he won. And personally, like I said, I had Tsarukyan winning. But anyway, so already that tells you how good he is, that Gamrot was having a hard time with him on the ground. He shut down Islam. He shut down Islam Makhachev and almost beat him because of the ground game. He was actually out grappling Islam Makhachev at some points during their fight. That right there is how good Arman Tsarukyan is. So to me, it doesn't even matter that Tsarukyan is also very good on the feet. I think Ismagulov has the clear, he's probably better on the feet just because that's all he does. He's a striking specialist and he's very, very good at it. But Tsarukyan is probably the second best guy on the ground in the division behind Islam. Yeah. So what I think is going to happen is he's just going to dominate Ismagulov with the grappling. I don't know. I don't think he's going to get a finish. I don't, because I think Ismagulov is good enough. Well, very, very good. So he's going to be able to shut down a couple of those takedowns, I'm sure. But the control time, he's just not going to be able to get a lot going. He's going to struggle actually getting stuff going on the cards and getting up on the cards because the grappling of Tsarukyan is so good. He won't be able to shut it down properly, especially second and third round. I mean, Tsarukyan was competing with Gamrot in grappling in the third and fourth rounds. That was a 5-round fight. So he is easily going to be able to keep that going in the third round of a 3-round fight. I mean, of a 3-round fight. I mean, really. So to me, the grappling makes all the difference here. Tsarukyan. Have to go with Tsarukyan. Minus 200. Yeah, that's fair. I do agree Ismagulov is very good. So I see why the betting lines are close. But like I said, has to be Tsarukyan for me. And maybe even a parlay, including Tsarukyan. Actually, I would say, yeah, put Tsarukyan in the parlays. The over-under is over 2.5 is at minus 267. I think that's completely fair. And I will be going in that direction as well. That being said, I mean, with that huge gap in the grappling, I could see Tsarukyan getting a submission win or, ground and pound, whatever, getting a finish on the ground. So plus 200 for under 2.5. There is a lot of value there. So you could go in that direction, but I'm still going in the decision direction for that one. Then we've got the main event, and that is, as I said, Cannonier and Sean Strickland. And this one is as close as the odds suggest. And I've been going, well, actually, no, I wouldn't really say I've been going back and forth on it. I do think Cannonier should be everybody's pick on this one because, I mean, really, I think we're kind of getting thrown off by the matchups that Strickland has been getting because, we all know he won, 5 or 6 in a row, and he looked very good. I'm not even denying that. He obviously looked really, really good. But when you look at who the wins were against, none of them are ranked at all. And none of them really even looked that impressive. And then his one ranked fight, he got absolutely demolished by Alex Pereira. So I don't really see where the argument is for Strickland. Whereas on the other side, you've got Cannonier, who has been beating everybody. I mean, he beat everybody except for Whitaker and Adesanya. He beat everybody else. He even beat Brunson. So I personally don't really see where the Strickland hype is coming. I mean, like, it's not really deserved in this case. I don't think he should be getting all this credit against another striker who is another knockout artist, and he just got knocked out by a knockout artist. Like, I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Unless, the only way I could see Strickland winning this is if he beats Cannonier on activity. Because Strickland is a very active guy. He does have the numbers to win the fights, and that's what he's been doing. That's how he's won all of his fights, is because he's so active in the striking. But when you've got somebody with power like Cannonier, by being active, you're not going to knock him out. You're essentially giving him the position to knock you out, because he's knocked out heavyweights, light heavyweights, and middleweights. So, you're leaving yourself exposed to getting knocked out in Strickland style. So, I don't know. I'm going with a Cannonier finish. I think with 5 rounds to work with, I think he can do it. I really do. I think Cannonier can get a finish here. And yeah, the odds are dead even pretty much. Minus 108 for Cannonier, minus 115 for Strickland. I got to go with Cannonier. Like I said, I just haven't. I mean, he went 5 rounds with Adesanya. He went 5 rounds with Whitaker as well. Like, I think Strickland would probably go 5 rounds with Whitaker. Maybe go 5 rounds with Adesanya, but that's questionable. I really do think that's borderline. I don't know if he can last 5 rounds with Adesanya. So, to me, there's a lot more leaning in that Cannonier direction. So I'm going with that, minus 108. That's the way to go. I don't know. I think that's the way to go. Yeah. Over under 4.5. I'm going under. Like I said, it's a lot of time to work with. He's got 5 rounds. And I mean, Cannonier has the power. He can get a knockout in the 3rd, 4th, probably even the 5th round. He's got it. So, all Strickland has to do is make one mistake. One mistake in 5 rounds, who, for a guy, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, he's kind of a loose cannon. So, easily the kind of guy who would make some mistakes here and there. So, I don't know, under 4.5 at minus 112. It's actually almost even money, minus 115 and minus 112. So they're slightly favoring the over, but I mean, under 4.5. I mean, yeah, I think that's the way to go. Yeah, lots of money to be made on that fight, I think, especially with everything being dead even. If you're right on this, you're doubling your money no matter what, because it's dead even money on both sides. Anyway, the prelims, there's 2 that I'm going to talk about. The first one I think is pretty one-sided. I'm just talking about it because everybody should watch Manel Kape. He's just that good. He's insanely good, and he will get a knockout again here too, I'm pretty sure. Again, he's another guy who's been getting a lot of first-round finishes, just like Amir Albazi, except for Manel Kape. Funny enough, same division too. But yeah, he's the kind of guy that if you're not, a stand-up kind of guy, or you're not just insanely good at grappling, you're probably going to get knocked out. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen here. I mean, he's just he's, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, like, there are no other knockout artists like this in that weight division. There just aren't any, because it's hard to get knockouts at 125. But this guy, he's knocking out people left and right. I mean, he got 1st-round knockouts over Zhumagulov and I think it was Osborne. I think it was Ode Osborne. I can't remember who the second guy was, but yeah, And his he lost a split decision to Nicolau, who is incredible, as we just saw a couple weeks ago. And his other loss was to Pantoja, who, to be honest, I think he might be the champ soon. I really do. Pantoja is not somebody you want to mess around with at all. Like, he's a scary, scary dude, to the point where I seriously think Moreno would have a problem with Pantoja. I really, really do. That'd be a very, very competitive fight, to the point where, like I said, I think Pantoja might actually take that one. And I think they're scared to make that fight right now because they want to see the Figgy Moreno quadrilogy end. Then you're going to be throwing Pantoja in there. And I honestly believe Pantoja could very easily be the next champ. So again, for Cap to only lose those two fights, what else can you say? I mean, that's incredible. He's just insanely good. So yeah, I think he's going to get a knockout here. I really do. Oh yeah, and then we'll go see what the odds are like. Cop. Minus 260. So yeah, clear parlay choice for Manel Kape there. Over under is at 2.5. They're favoring the over. And I mean, if you look at David Dvorak's record, I see why they're saying that. But he also hasn't fought anybody anywhere close to as good as Kape. And Kape has knocked out much better people than David Dvorak. So, I mean, at plus money for under 2.5, you got to do it. You got to put some money on it because, I mean, he's a knockout artist and he's going against somebody who's never fought anybody as good as him, not even close to as good. So, yeah, I think that's pretty clear. Actually, he did fight Nicolau, which again, he lost too, but it was a unanimous decision, so it wasn't quite as close. But yeah, I just don't think it's really all that close at all. So parlay opportunity there as well. And the last one of the night, Said Nurmagomedov and Said Yakub Kakramanov. That's got to be the longest matchup name we've had in quite a while, which is funny that both of their names start with Said. Said and Said Yakub. Weird coincidence. And they both end in Ov. Anyway, enough about their names. They also, actually, more similarities. They also fight the same way, pretty much. I mean, Said Yakub probably a little bit better on the feet, but very much more so a grappler and really good grappler. We saw that in his last fight. But, the name says it all. Nurmagomedov. Yes, this is not his cousin, and I want to make that very clear. He has no relation to Khabib whatsoever, other than the fact that they have the same last name. That is it. And they also, of course, are from Dagestan. But trust me when I say this is not his cousin. He's been described that way so many times, and he has to say every single time, I am not related to Khabib. And Khabib's even said that himself too. He's not related to me. So remember that. He has the same last name, but he's not related. That being said, he has the exact same style. So we're still dealing with a Dagestani wrestler here who is probably going to do, he is going to do his same strategy as always. Go for takedowns, control the person on the ground. And I have to imagine his grappling is just going to be just slightly better than Kakramanov, and that will give him the win. I do think it's going to be close, and it is a tough matchup for both of them. Don't get that twisted. It's pretty close, but he's got the slight edge. You have to give the Dagestani wrestler the slight edge whenever you're talking about this kind of matchup, because it's going to be a grappling matchup. And who's going to be the better grappler? I always have to put money on the Dagestani guy. So, yeah. Especially since we've literally just seen all of this scoring garbage. Which way would they be going in a scoring fiasco? Always going to be going towards the Dagestani guy. So again, even based on controversy alone in the last couple of weeks, you'd have to go with Nurmagomedov on that as well. And that is it. That is it for the matchups here. I will quickly go through the prelim and not the prelims, the parlays that I'm liking. and then we'll call it a night. The first one, Morozov, I would say he's the pretty clear favorite in this, minus 286. I like that a lot. Manel Kape, minus 260. Skip through. Matthew, what? Oh, yeah, that's right. Matthews. Jake Matthews, I think, is a pretty clear favorite, minus 267. That's our third guy, I would say. I don't like Oleksiejczuk enough to do that because I still think Brundage has a half decent shot of winning this. So I'm not including Oleksiejczuk in this. Albazi, minus 450. Throw that in every single parlay you got. I mean, seriously. So that's a fourth one. Tsarukyan at minus 200. I will be throwing in a couple of them for sure. Yeah, that's it though. You could no. Dober. Dober is another good one, minus 155. Definitely be throwing that in a couple of them too. But all the rest of them, they're pretty close. They're pretty close, I would say. Yeah. And that's it. And by the way, this is the last one that we're going to be doing like this for the rest of the year, of course, because there's no more cards after this. So yeah, next week we're going to be talking about the results of this card, and we're going to be talking about two Canadian cards, because Unified is on twice in a row this week. They're on Friday. I already checked. They're on Friday night this week and Saturday night, because the UFC is actually ending early. It'll be over at around 7 or 8. And then Unified MMA will start right after that at about 7:30 or 8 or 8:30, whatever it is. They're also going to be on. So Saturday is a great night for MMA, and that is what I'll be doing. I will be watching Friday and Saturday for both of that. Get rid of that banner. And that's what we'll be talking about next week, and that'll be it. That will be the last show, because there's no reason to do any shows other than that, because that's it. And that would mean that we'll be back in January talking about I don't know what the first card is. I don't think it opens with the pay-per-view. I think there's one just before that. I don't remember what the card is though. But anyway, we'll be back talking about that card, and that would be probably, I think, the second week of January is when we would be back talking about that. But yeah, that'll be it. So I will oh yeah, of course I got to do my whole shtick, Area 51, of course, they've got all the other sports, especially the soccer now with FIFA. Of course, that's ending tomorrow, or tomorrow or Friday. I can't remember which day. But they've got all of that. All of my socials are also down below. That's Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch, I believe, is down. Oh, Twitter. Twitter is down there as well. And yeah, I will see you next week, where we'll have our last show of the year. So and then of course we're doing our year-end bonuses. I've never done year-end bonuses, but that's what I'm going to be doing. So stay tuned for that. That will of course be on Twitter and Instagram as always. That will be where those will turn out. And I'm also, by the way, doing them for BFL and Unified, and of course UFC, because I've covered all of the Canadian promotions this entire year. So I figured, why not, since I've watched all of the events, I might as well give out bonuses for the year-end one for that as well. It just makes sense. So stay tuned for those as well. Those will also, of course, be on Twitter and Instagram. I will see you next time.